All right, everybody. Whew! That was great. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night. Yes. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. As always, thank you guys for joining us. But we got to remind everybody that we are part of the Red 5 Network. Check this out. We'll be right back. That was hot.
Hey, who was that
Got to
other
change
guy?
headphones now. But Brad, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. For the two people here with us, uh, just so you know, old Chucklehead over here hasn't watched The Mandalorian yet. I'm sorry, the one person that's still with us. Uh, thanks, Charlie.
Wow.
Yeah,
Even Shannon left.
did this this used to be the place to be on Friday nights? Do we lose the entire Red 5 network? What are we doing?
Yeah, I guess life finds a way, as they say on Jurassic Park. But
I thought everybody-
I haven't had a chance. Haven't had a chance.
Come on now, in the
I
van,
watch.
like you don't have Disney Plus in the van.
I do actually, but today I covered a really sad story, and we were like, top to bottom, super busy. So probably watch it after we do our little reaction here. But
Yeah, well, we got to continue because Dave's here, and Dave's from
and
across the pond. So,
he's
uh,
late. It's late out there.
uh, Dave, how's the weather over there in the chat? I'm guessing foggy with a chance of rain. I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah, let's. I'm very excited,
Yeah,
and you're right. Friday night was. I guess we lost our time slot.
I guess so. Ah, see, wet. Yeah, see, I figured I could predict the weather over there. Yeah, I mean, speaking of excited, if you are a Disney investor, then you are very happy uh, this morning or this evening. You were happy this morning when the stocks opened. Even happier now. They had I believe, a 15% increase since yesterday. Stocks were up like $20 or something like that after they did all these announcements. So yeah, it went. I guess you could say it went pretty well. Good time to be owning some Disney stock, and
It's going
rightfully.
up.
But lots of stuff to talk about. And in addition, we'll get to all the things they announced. On another Star Wars note, besides the Mandalorian that came out today, which Rose still hasn't seen, the B-wing and the TIE Defender were both introduced on Star Wars Squadrons today as well. So that's pretty cool. Haven't gotten a chance to try the TIE Defender yet, but the B-wing is pretty fun. So if you play that game, definitely check that out. Lot of fun there. But
What platform are you playing it on, Brad?
PlayStation Network. You can find me Wookiees and Cream on PlayStation. You can also search by EA ID if you're on computer or on Xbox. Um, but did you stay up for all the announcements last night?
Yeah, again, I was. What was I doing last night? Oh, yeah, I got to devote some time to the wife every so often. So we were watching some stuff every so often. I would sneak in a little Twitter news, just kind of biting my tongue every so often. But yeah, I was watching a little bit. Real fast, getting back to the gaming thing. I'm gonna have to relinquish the Twitch account so you can continue to kind of populate that. But I got to figure out how to do that. But for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's been above. Yeah, I think it's really fun to stream on Squadrons. We can do a lot of talking, a lot of chatting on there, and hopefully we get some of our Scoto buddies to squad up and fly with us, for free. We don't charge anything to fly with us, like some other folks
That's
do.
excellent,
Yeah,
excellent.
for free. But yeah, exciting stuff. Dave, thank you for everybody that's in the chat. Y'all chime in at any time. Let us know what you thought. of the announcements last night from Disney as far as Star Wars go, and also Marvel content and other Disney content that they announced. Want to chime in on anything? Ask us any questions you might have. We'd be happy to answer them. Do I use a regular controller or a flight stick? Regular controller. I looked around for flight sticks. I guess they're not. I don't know. I'm not what I would consider a gamer. I'm pretty good at this game, but I looked around for a flight stick, and I swear they're not as easily accessible or buyable as they used to be. So I just use the standard PlayStation controller for it. And sometimes we use VR as well. And I don't normally use VR, but for this game, it's definitely worth it from time to time. It's a crazy good experience on VR. I'm not sure what other good games are out there for VR, but this one, you are definitely in the cockpit when you have that VR headset on.
And absolutely, Charlie Skywalker, holy smokes, what a night of information. You know, I pulled up that screenshot of Kathleen Kennedy on stage with all her babies behind her. And yeah, some titles in there that that we already knew, like Bad Batch and Obi-Wan Kenobi. But there's some in there that are pretty exciting. I don't know if you want to dive into talking a little bit about your reaction and what you left, what left you surprised, what left you wanting. I do notice one thing is missing from this list, but we'll definitely get there. One of the things that I really am happy to see come to fruition, as far as um, I guess the continuation of the story. A friend of mine, Caesar, and I really love the original Willow film with Val Kilmer and Joanne Whaley slash Kilmer became Kilmer, but really love that story. Obviously, George Lucas, Ron Howard, another powerhouse team there, and I'm really glad to see Willow back on the slate there for production. Now, I'm looking at the screenshot again, and one of the things that I'm noticing, obviously, is are these just streaming projects, or are they movies as well? Because I do see Indiana Jones on there. What's up with that?
There's a couple movies mixed in there. The majority are streaming. Indiana Jones will be a movie, which Harrison Ford will be in it. Very stoked to see that. I don't think Shia LaBeouf will be in this one, or at least they didn't say that yesterday. But Rogue Squadron is also a movie slated for late 2023, and the director from Wonder Woman, the original Wonder Woman, will be the director on that one.
Patty Jenkins. Patty Jenkins.
Yep, Patty's great. I mean, I'm on record somewhere. I can't stand DC movies. I think they're horrible, except for a couple of them. And
Sure.
Wonder Woman is fantastic by all accounts, whether or not you like DC. And she did a fantastic. I mean, that movie's brilliant and looks beautiful. So if she puts the same, love and passion in the Rogue Squadron, I'm looking forward to that. They did say that was something along the lines of pushing the Star Wars universe into a new era. So I'm wondering if that is perhaps after the rise of Skywalker. Uh, when they say the new era, I'm not sure which era they're referring to. That's the only new era I know that hasn't been really explored too much.
I mean, really, unless you can't have Rogue Squadron, such an iconic name, dropped into an era where we don't know anything about the era other than the name Rogue Squadron. I'm almost tempted to believe that we're going to get something within the universe that we already know, only because there is opportunity to kind of see characters and scenarios and planets that fans have heard about, instead of introducing something absolutely brand new, which I don't mind. But I think if you're going to drop a movie under that name, I think the best way to kind of introduce it to as many people as possible is just to kind of bring it into a I guess into a an era that we're familiar with. So, whether it's before I don't know, in between the original trilogy, maybe that would be very interesting, or after Return of the Jedi, before Mandalorian. Maybe we get to see.
I mean, I think all the money isn't so. I mean, obviously, we have a couple more that we'll talk about that are in the Mandalorian time period. I think that's where the money is right now, is in that, Return
The
of the
sweet
Jedi.
sweet spot, yeah.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly from the Aftermath series, Wedge was not flying for Rogue Squadron at that time. After Return of the Jedi, I think he was flying with Ghost Squadron, if I'm not mistaken. If anybody in the chat knows, feel free to correct me. But I think he was flying with Ghost Squadron at that time. So Wedge wouldn't necessarily have to be in there. Now Wedge did have his 3 seconds in the Rise of
Was it
Skywalker.
was it
So
that long?
yeah, it was 3 seconds, give or take a half second. Um, oh yeah, I'm correct. Whew, thank God. Um, so they don't need to have Wedge in there. Although if they did it after the Rise of Skywalker, he could be that old mentor type figure to the rest of them. But I'm with you. I think their best bet would be to put it around Mandalorian time frame.
I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to Alex over at the Salty Nerd Podcast. Don't forget to hit that double double square button. That translated weird, but thank you very much, Salty. And again, another member of our Red 5 network. Just really great team of people over there. But you know, there's obviously a faction of the fandom that are kind of finding, I guess, objections to some of this stuff, and obviously, we're seeing a lot of familiar territory here. We're seeing a lot of things that old fans like us are really going to enjoy. Obviously, Rogue Squadron. We saw a little bit of the Bad Batch even before this announcement. The Andor series looks amazing. I know a lot of people are really not into it, but that's probably one of the series that I'm really, really looking forward to for many reasons.
So I got
What?
a philosophical question for you. Now we've sort of touched on this before, but now it's more appropriate than ever, and that is, and this has nothing to do with quote unquote Star Wars fatigue, because I think that's a myth. But is there such a thing as too much Star Wars? And by that, um, does it drown out the message of Star Wars? And I guess a sub question to that: does the message of Star Wars, and I guess when I say message, I mean what we learned from the original trilogy, those sort of morals and stuff, those themes. Does that message even matter anymore, or are we just concerned with being immersed into this universe?
That is a really great question, and I think it's one of those deep dive questions that can be definitely relegated to an episode of the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. But let me answer it for you rather quickly here. I don't think it dilutes the message of the original trilogy. I think it's by extension, it kind of expands on that. But I think Disney has to be real careful here to try to steward that message into perpetuity, because obviously they own Star Wars, they own Lucasfilm now, and it's up to them to kind of really, continue with that message and not lose sight of it. I think, whether you agree with the concept of the fact that maybe they strayed a little bit from that with the sequel trilogy by rushing through it and answering to investors and just kind of getting these movies out because they were kind of just fighting on a timeline. But I think as long as they remember the core message, as you said, of the original trilogy, I think Star Wars will be fine. I think as long as folks like Favreau and Filoni and people that really had a one-on-one connection with George Lucas, the creator of the franchise, obviously, then I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd like to get back to Andor because I know you've talked many times uh, how much you appreciated Diego Luna's character being introduced in the Rogue One movie. So I assume you're ultra stoked about the Andor series itself.
I can't tell you how extra stoked I am. It's Rogue One really spoke to me on many different levels, both in universe and behind the scenes. I think it's one of those films. I've said it before a lot of times. It's a love letter to Star Wars fans. It just really felt like they found footage from 1970s and put this movie together, and that's one of the things that screams Star Wars to me. It's a great flick, and obviously we get our roots. Our podcast gets our roots from that film. Being the Scarif podcast. I think an extension of that film for me is going to be an exciting thing, and I know obviously we know what happens to that character, but from point A to whatever point we're going to be drawn to in this film, I think it's going to be an exciting ride. We get to see what happens to the rebellion, what happens to these characters, before we meet them in Rogue One. I think it's exciting. I think there's an opportunity there to really dive into again the. I know a lot of people aren't really on board with the politics of Star Wars when it comes to in-universe politics. But I think it's something really great. As adults, you kind of take a look at, the Senate and the Jedi and Palpatine and how he's maneuvering things back and forth and the rebellion. I think all that stuff is really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, and if I heard the sort of trailer correctly, I think they said 12 episodes, and that sounds awesome to me. And if you're
Yeah.
talking about characters like, I mean, if Forrest Whitaker uh, comes back, uh, you know, as Saw Gerrera, if we get Mon Mothma in there, General Draven, those are all great characters in Rogue One. If we can get those, and we've talked about the moral side of the house. He makes that comment in Rogue One. All the things he's done, he did, for the rebellion. So it'll be interesting. I think, you know, they'd really be missing the mark if they didn't, touch on those moral issues. So I think we're going to see him do some dark things, and K2 will be with him as well.
Sure.
So I think we'll see them do some dark things in there, all on behalf of the rebellion. So that'll be interesting.
What do you think of Salty's comment on screen here?
I'm worried about that from yeah, I mean, I can see that. I'm worried about that from a continuity perspective. Um, we, they got rid of the EU. We've talked about this. They got rid of the EU in order to control the continuity. But it took them less than a year, I think, to screw up their own continuity between the movies, books, and comic books. They already screwed up their continuity. It is, uh, yeah, I think there's a huge risk there. You might as well go ahead and start introducing the EU back into it if you're going to do that. But as long as the story group is very closely working with these production teams, and so far they have with the Mandalorian. I mean, he's touched on all kinds of things without interfering or changing anything. As long as
How much? Let me ask you this: how much is that due to the story group versus Dave Filoni, who really has a really profound understanding of the Star Wars universe, obviously working hand in hand with George Lucas to create the Clone Wars and some of these characters, versus really the story group that everybody seems to have a problem with regarding keeping that history alive and keeping it straight. Obviously there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of stories that are multimedia type stories. You really have to have one room with everything in it to kind of keep things straight, and I don't think that they've mastered that yet. So for the most part, I think it's more of a Dave Filoni thing than it is a story group thing. I don't know. What do you think?
I 100% agree with you. I don't think Dave Filoni needs the story group at all. I think he's got the story group up in his head,
Sure.
um, and he's been. I mean, if you watch it, he seems to be like Palpatine with his long game. He seemed to have a lot of this stuff planned out since he was working on the Clone Wars. At least that's the way it seems now. Um, But I'm worried about. I'm not so much worried about Filoni. Um, yeah, I there's there's some truth to that salty comment. Um, but yeah, I'm not worried about Filoni. I'm worried about all these other directors and writers that are working on all these other projects. Um, yeah, that'll be a challenge for them to keep it all straight.
Now,
Uh,
Dave's got an interesting comment regarding keeping everything straight. He says, I think Disney doing okay with Marvel. So,
Marvel's a
it's,
completely different beast. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
Disney owns them, but you know the producers there of the MCU were all. I mean, they were always more prepared, and they knew where they were going for some time. Um, yeah, it's yeah. You got to have you get. I mean that's the point of the story group. So I don't know how they managed to screw it up like they've had like they have so far anyway. But yeah, I mean, speaking of continuity and possibly screwing up, what are your thoughts on Hayden Christensen coming back? Not as Anakin. So I think a lot of people thought he was going to be flashbacks, but according to the announcements, Hayden Christensen will be coming back as Vader for the Obi-Wan series. What do you think they will have screen time together? And if so, will that kind of screw up the message in episode 4? As of right now, the last time they had seen each other was 20 years prior. Now we're splitting the difference. Now it's 10 years in between. Does that screw up anything?
I don't think so. Obviously, we talked about who my favorite character in Star Wars is, and probably all fiction is Darth Vader. So as long as you give me more Darth Vader, I'm good. Obviously, I do have a little bit of a cautious nature when it comes to Darth Vader because the more you see him, the more diluted he gets. And I know Salty's got some issues with bringing that mix back into the OT because it does kind of, some people feel that there's no wiggle room, as you said, Salty. There's no wiggle room in that time frame. But I don't think I think if it's handled well, and because what's the line that he says in A New Hope at the end? Vader says, "When I left you, I was but the learner."
Now I'm the master.
Now, so I can see them fighting again one last time, and Obi Wan says, "Ah, you got some learning to do, pal," and then
No,
they take off.
uh-uh, no, There-
Yeah,
no. There's no. I mean, yeah. I mean, Obi Wan is the biggest shit talker during lightsaber battles. I don't. No. Uh, no. I'm wondering if they're going to be on screen together at all. I mean, because he can come back as you can show the parallels. You can show the parallels between the two characters. Um, you know, Obi Wan in seclusion and Vader completely tortured by his choices. I don't. I think it's very hard to put them together.
how do you bring back those two characters though and pair them off without being together? Say again.
They can talk to each other through the Force. I don't know. I mean, I think half of it is they want to show Ewan McGregor getting older. I think people want to know how Obi Wan got so old looking when Bo Katan's still perfect many years later. I don't know. I don't know how you put them together, but I think it will kind of lessen the significance of those lines in A New Hope.
I
Still,
disagree.
I mean,
I
I
think you know we'll see what happens. Yeah, backyard TARDIS says that. Let me put it up. They said they confront each other one more time. So Kathleen Kennedy has that little clip that says during the stream that they come back for the rematch of the century, and I think that's a direct quote. So they're definitely going to be together.
yeah. Uh, I don't know why they.
We'll
I don't know
see.
why they even spoil that.
Yeah, that's that again. We talked about this in previous episodes regarding I don't know, the social media kind of spoils the surprises, And I know for a lot of people it doesn't matter, but I just remember going into a movie not knowing anything and like just being totally blown away. It's now you watch a freaking 2 minute trailer and you see the whole plot. Like, so what's the point?
Yeah.
But I
Uh,
digress. What else
yeah.
we got?
What else we got? So we've talked about Cassian Andor. We've talked about Obi-Wan a little bit. Talked about Rogue Squadron a little bit. Uh, I will tell you the one thing I am very interested in is the Acolyte. And that is set in the, I think they say, the tail end of the High Republic. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, we asked Kevin Scott about this um, a few weeks ago, and so there's a slight difference between the Old Republic and the High Republic. The Old Republic refers to basically anything like 1,000 years before the movie and earlier than that, and the High Republic is the time period just a couple hundred years before the original or before the prequel trilogy. And so it's set in the tail end of the High Republic, and it's about they say a mystery thriller involving some dark side users. So I am very interested to see where they go. We've been asking for some old Republic content for a while now, and I think this is going to be the closest we get to it for at least a little bit. What are your thoughts about seeing a new dark side user?
Yeah, I'm all about the dark side. Now, I read somewhere that the Acolyte is going to be spearheaded by the writer producer. What's her name? Hayland,
Yeah,
Headling.
I just had it.
Yeah.
I wasn't familiar with that particular.
Now she's the one that, early on they said that they were going to bring her in to do kind of a female-centric Star Wars, and Acolyte was attached to her name. So um, I'm wondering if this Acolyte is someone like what's your friend's name? The Baldy Sith,
Yeah, so Leslie
Leslie Headland.
premise the Russian doll. I'm not familiar with the Russian doll.
Neither am I.
Um, I mean, it sounds fancy. Uh, I don't know if anybody in the chat has seen that. Let us know if that's any good. Might have to check it out now that she's going to be doing some dark side stuff.
Sure, yeah, but you know, someone like
I mean, I hope they don't. I hope they don't retcon Bane at all. Or, I mean, I don't want them to touch if this is set in the High Republic time period. I don't want them to touch anybody from what we know as the Old Republic. That being Bane, Darth Zana, his apprentice, Darth Malgus, the old Emperor from SWOTOR video game. So I'm hoping this is a new user, but I would also hope that somehow it has ties to Plagueis, to Sidious, maybe stuff that we're going to be talking about here in the near future, as far as the Sith Eternal and uh, essence transfer, force transfer, that sort of thing. Uh, I would like to see a touch on those things, so we get a little historical reference for that sort of thing.
a while ago we posted a Twitter poll regarding that subject, whether people really like Star Wars when they talk about Force lore, the dark side, light side, or they talk about Star Wars when when they show like the actual wars, so the X-wings and the Empire versus the Rebellion. Um, and really it was almost a tie up until the end there. A lot of people really liked both, and that poll started to kind of, it went up fast, pretty equally, but I think in the long run, people really enjoyed the force lore aspect of Star Wars, which is really cool because getting into all that stuff is fascinating, other than just the wars. And I hope we do explore a little bit more of that, especially with the Acolyte. I think it'll be an interesting topic to stink our teeth into for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my thing, and we've talked about this, is the connections. So if they can connect something that happened 200 years ago to something that's currently happening in the Mandalorian or in any one of the trilogies, I think that's awesome, and it just builds so much depth to that universe. And I mean, we've only had so many Sith and dark side users in all these stories, so it'd be nice to see a new one. Did you see the trailer for the Bad Batch?
I did. And, when it was first announced, I wasn't too thrilled about getting another, animated series based on the Bad Batch. But as I see more and more and more, it's bringing me back to, the original feeling I had about the Clone Wars and how amazing, that story was. And, all the episodes going through it. I think the Bad Batch is probably going to be up there when it comes to Star Wars storytelling in the animated realm. Um, so just so we get it straight, the Bad Batch obviously it's the characters that we saw in the Bad Batch story arc in the final season of the Clone Wars. But are we seeing these clones change from clones to Imperial stormtroopers? Are we seeing that?
I was going to ask you the same question. Now, the clues in the trailer, the biggest one being Palpatine giving his speech that he gave in Revenge of the Sith about being reorganized into the First Galactic Empire. And the other uh, sort of clue that was in there was Tarkin was in there,
No.
and he told them good job or something like that, or that was quite a maneuver, or something along those lines. So some of it definitely happens after Order 66. My question is, where are these guys going to fall as far as their allegiance goes? Are they going to be, and I think they left that deliberately out of the trailer from everything I could tell. Are they going to go like you said, the obvious way, which is to side with the Empire because that's their new boss? Or are they going to side with the rebellion? I guess there's, you know, possibly, considering their demeanor, how they act in that last season of the Clone Wars, do they have the inhibitor chips that the other clones had? How did they behave during Order 66? Were there any Jedi around? Did they attempt to kill anybody? Those are all going to be interesting questions. I would tend to believe. I mean, you and I obviously would like to see an Imperial-based cartoon, especially with these guys who are rough and rugged. But I'm thinking what's more marketable to Star Wars fans is that they side on the rebellion side of the house.
Yeah. I,
Which way
I
do
could
you think? So,
I can see that. I think it'll probably be more universally accepted. You got families joining in. I've always mentioned the Star Wars, the gateway drug. So it's a good way to bring in families and young, young viewers to the Star Wars universe. And I think something like, bringing in kind of a wholesome rebellion, good guys type of thing might be well received by that audience.
yeah, it was clear that they had no love for their fellow clones. I don't think they saw themselves at all as
Hmm.
one of the other clones. I think they definitely saw themselves as unique individuals. I mean, all clones did eventually, but these guys especially. So, and it didn't seem like they were around any Jedi in particular. It didn't appear that they had any kind of Jedi boss
Hmm.
when they were on that last season. So, if Order 66 went down and they saw, what happened, I think they would have been immediately turned off from the Empire. So that's why I can see them going towards the rebellion.
Sure.
But next, Lando.
So this is interesting. So when we first started tonight, I talked about how there's certain things that were missing from this list, and obviously, since the release of Solo, people have had the the wish to continue that story. Me included. I really enjoyed again seeing these crime syndicates kind of interact with Solo and within that universe, and the Empire is still around. So I'm really wherever the Empire is, man, I'm there. It's really a great for me. It's a lot of fun. But obviously, there has been a big push by the Star Wars community to create a sequel to the Solo film, and rightfully so. I think a lot of us want to have that story continue. But yeah, that's one of the things that I noticed that was missing from this list. If they were going to announce a sequel to Solo, you got an offshoot, Lando, which I found it interesting. So I'm wondering if you know if they're still going to be maybe pursuing a Solo sequel in the far future, even beyond this, or are they leaving that for a later announcement? We've got Star Wars Celebration Anaheim was supposed to be this year, but they pushed it back, so maybe they're leaving some stuff for Anaheim for fans to kind of enjoy. But Lando is an interesting one. What do you think of the? I saw a post by someone, and I can't remember who it was, but how they can kind of bring back Billy D. Williams as well as Danny Glover.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about, and uh, I'll get back to that, but I want to talk about Solo too. I'd have to say I'm not in that camp. I don't know. Someone's going to blast me on Twitter probably. I think Episode 4 is Solo 2. We didn't need. I mean, I love Solo. I think it's a fun movie. It's a great movie. I don't. We definitely didn't need it. We didn't need any backstory on Solo. So I think it was fun as a one shot, as they say. I don't think we needed one. I know people want to see what happens with Kira and with Maul. I think that sort of story definitely lends itself to a Disney Plus series. I think this medium is better to continue that story than a 2 hour, 15-minute movie. I'd rather see this every week and talk about it just like we do with The Mandalorian. Now, as far as what you're asking, and I think I may have mentioned either I mentioned this on one of our previous shows or I just mentioned it in my head, but I'll say it out loud for now. Um, what I would love to see, yeah, I think your camera's drunk, by the way. I think you've been drinking too much over there. Um, I want to see the Lando Chronicles. I want to see old Lando sitting in his little hut or van or whatever the hell he was on, reading the Lando Chronicles or the Calrissian Chronicles, I think he called them.
Yeah.
That he was writing in Solo, and as he's hearing the Calrissian Chronicles out loud as he's reading them out loud, then it goes to the flashback and you get into the story with Danny Glover. So kind of like remember the Wonder Years where you had the narrator the whole time and he was talking about his past. I think it'd be fun as hell to see Lando doing that as part of the Calrissian Chronicles or the Lando Chronicles, whatever he called them. And I mean, this you can do whatever you want with that. I mean, he's Lando was supposed to have done everything and everyone. So I think that I think that would be a fun show. Um, and if they brought his droid back, uh, I don't want to get into the creepiness of that relationship, but I thought she was a pretty cool droid as well. So I think you can definitely still. And somebody was asking about Maul. I think it might have been Dave asking about Maul in the chat. Yeah, there we go. Um, God, I hope so. If you can't do this without talking about the crime syndicates, and nobody wants to see a bunch of huts just walking around. So I think Crimson Dawn has to be part of it. So yeah, I would love to see. And Mandalorian has shown they're willing to introduce or reintroduce whoever and
Hmm.
get him back on screen. So I think it's very likely that we do see Maul back in Lando.
Yeah, out of everything that was announced, I think for me, Lando was probably way at the bottom as far as my
Really,
excitement level. Yeah,
not the droid story. You're looking forward to the droid story more than Lando?
I just looked at it right before you said that. And I'm assuming a droid story is probably going to be kind of like the droids and Ewoks cartoons were in the 80s.
That's what it seemed to me.
That's what it seems like. It almost has a little bit of the same font for me. But if Lando continues what I'm sorry, what Solo started, especially if Maul is in there, and maybe we deal with Lando and the crime syndicates, then yeah, then my probably bring Lando up a couple notches. But yeah, there's other stuff in there, and some mysterious titles like we'll get to it, but Children of Blood and Bone and Visions. I mean, these are things that I got no clue what they are, but that should be interesting. If Lando comes out and what are the is does anybody know what Lando is? That going to be like a miniseries, just like Andor, or
Yeah, it's going to be.
probably most of them are miniseries at
Yeah,
this point. Yeah.
actually, yeah, and you mentioned Visions. That's awesome because I didn't see much about it, but I know they said it was going to be short stories,
Yeah.
anime style.
Mm,
So
that's right. I did
bringing
read
that
that.
anime influence into the mix is, that's awesome way to bring new viewers. I don't know how much more the market Star Wars can gobble up, but they probably don't have much as far as the anime market goes. So if they can bring them in by introducing some anime, and we've and I guess the closest thing we've seen to that animation is that X-wing
Yeah.
short that somebody did a few years back, and how
Mm-hmm.
amazing that looked. So I think and there was some manga like they redid the Lost Stars as a manga comic book. I think these stories lend themselves to anime. I think that's a good new market they can test the waters on, and maybe get some new viewers.
Sure. So, I'm looking at this screenshot and there is a lot there. Um I know I was playing around with somebody on Twitter regarding the sequel trilogy told us to forget about the past, kill it if you have to, but looks like all of this stuff is past. I'm all for it, and I think I think Star Wars is going to be here for a long time. Looks like they're bringing in a little bit for everyone, and I obviously we haven't talked about the elephant in the room, and there's a lot of implications within the Ahsoka series that we will be diving into, hopefully soon. A lot of people love to take a look at the logos and the background images to kind of extrapolate and figure out what the shows are about. Ahsoka obviously is something that I'm really interested in, and even more so now after reading a couple of comments on Twitter regarding the world beyond, world between worlds, and the images in that logo. That correspond to the images in The Mandalorian when Grogu was on the stone. So I think stuff like that is really cool. And like you said during our last Mando Weekly, how we're getting back to Star Wars fans just kind of talking about what if they did this and speculation. I think it's great. I think it's going to give us enough material to really have fun with. And by the way, you guys, if you listened to last week's Mando Weekly from the Scarif Scuttlebutt. Thank you so much. We are almost at 200 listens, and it reached that in less than a week. I mean, we're not even into talking about today's episode, which we will on Sunday. So come on back Sunday. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It was a record for us.
Yeah, for anybody that missed in the chat, please don't say anything because Ro is the worst Star Wars fan ever. And you're gonna know why I say that after you watch this. Like you're missing out. So yeah, Ahsoka. I guess I'm kind of Ahsoka is obviously not the same as she was when we last saw her in either the Clone Wars or the Rebels series. Time has definitely changed her outlook and her demeanor. Uh, do you have any concerns that her character might be too different on that show than what people are used to? For she was good for the one show in The Mandalorian, great for the one show in Mandalorian, but is more exposure going to kind of rub people the wrong way when they're used to Ashley Eckstein's Ahsoka?
Yeah, I think I think the one show in the Mandalorian just kind of I don't know, acted as a shock absorber when it came to just getting people used to the new Ahsoka. I guess at least the new Ahsoka with a different voice. I think uh, I think Dawson did a great job, but people do. I was expecting a little bit more of not an imitation of her, but a little bit more sounding like her. But I'm okay with it. I think and again that Variety um, article that popped up, the interview with Dave Filoni, he did say that he wasn't giving away as far as where the Ahsoka episode, or where she is during this time. Was it before? Was it after Rebels? So we don't know exactly where that timeline frame fits. So I'm not sure if we're going to be getting those answers during the rest of the Mandalorian. I know we got just one more episode, but we'll see. I'm very excited to see where Ahsoka goes, especially because of all the hints and all the speculation that is surrounding that series. We got
You say that, and I kind of just put it together. You mentioned just a couple minutes ago about the world between worlds. So if taking that thought and taking what Filoni said as far as when does Mandalorian happen, uh, she's been there. She was there with Ezra
hmm
in the world between worlds. So if that's a part of this series, that could be a pretty epic storyline, and could take what we know of the Force to a whole new level.
yeah, and I think a lot of people are afraid of that. I think we
Too
had that
much.
discussion. Yeah, I think we had that discussion a while ago with Trevor. A lot of people really took that World Between Worlds episode of the Clone Wars and just kind of discounted it as kind of like a fever dream or something. And um, I really enjoyed it. You still go back to those shows, those types of episodes, and really pick it apart and examine it and see what you get out of it. But I'm looking forward to if they do go into it. And I've said this before online. I like when Star Wars is true to itself without sacrificing story for the for the audience, or at least the portion of the audience that may not really 100% have followed everything to know everything. I think there's room obviously to be able to tell these stories and kind of keep them consistent, especially for us who kind of absorb everything Star Wars. But there is an opportunity for fans that may not read the comic books or the novels, or followed the Clone Wars all throughout the growth of this character Ahsoka. I think there's an opportunity to introduce this storyline to them in a way that'll be great for them, but also great for us. Someone that some of us fans who already know.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to run a quick poll with those in the chat. Y'all, sound off. Let me know what you think. So, which arc do you prefer? Slash, which arc is more realistic? Those don't necessarily have to be the same answer, but the world between worlds or the Mortis arc from the Clone Wars. I mean,
Oh
because
wow.
personally, I think World Between Worlds is way more. I mean, we say plausible as far as the Star Wars universe. I think it makes way more sense. You know, I said this way back on Scarif, and some of our newer listeners may have not heard it, but I'm not a huge fan of the Mortis arc. I know it hasn't really gotten hasn't gotten Empire Strikes Back status, but there's people that really love the Mortis arc. Yeah, Backyard TARDIS, um, you know, likes Mortis. I think that arc is. I'm sorry. I think it's highly overrated. I think what we saw on Rebels was much more, like I said, realistic, plausible, whatever. Mortis versus Bendu. I would love to see that as well. But if she hung out there and saw different realities, different time periods, and stuff like that, or try to make things right, I'd rather see that. And I think that definitely makes more sense than the Mortis arc. But which one do you prefer between those two arcs?
I'm with Charlie. What a choice! It's really difficult. Um, I, I l- I really love both of them. I think Star Wars is really cool when it gets mythical like that, when it gets mysterious like that. It's almost like you're diving into religion and really picking apart the ins and outs, the nooks and crannies of the lore. Um, I don't know if I can answer that. I think, like you said, the more plausible one is probably the World Between Worlds. There's a little precedence if you kind of reach back when Yoda is telling Luke about the Force, when he really says, when you're at peace, places you will see, old friends long gone. I almost attribute that to him knowing about this world between worlds where he's not talking about memories, he's talking about being in this otherworldly plane of existence where you can see all these alternate realities and alternate universes and alternate uh, you know outcomes. And I know Dave Filoni talked about the fact that it's not like a time machine. You can't sit in your DeLorean and go back to a certain place and then continue from there. Um, it's really interest. It'll be really interesting to see how they formulate the rules of this realm, world between worlds. Like I said, I think it'll be a dangerous thing if they just kind of go back and say, well, we went back and this is when time travel gets a little goofy. So I'm hoping that they really kind of craft the rules of the world between worlds where it's not, it's not a free for all where you can just kind of hit the reset and go.
If they did stick with the World Between Worlds, they could just bring the whole EU back as an alternate reality. But I left the Mortis arc with more questions than I had answers. Maybe that's what
That's
they
what I love
wanted.
about it. That's exactly
Yeah,
what they wanted. I think I mean the father, and then again you gotta understand George Lucas's background in anthropology and religion, and he brings in the elements of the Force. So when I first saw that episode, you've got the father, you got the son, you got the daughter. I mean, there's a trinity there, and that is done on purpose. So all you religious folks, go back and kind of look through that episode with your religious eyes, and you'll see how interesting that plays out. And maybe there are no answers, but maybe all the answers are right in front of you, and that's what I love.
yeah. It'll be interesting. Yeah, so that's set in the same time period as Mandalorian, and of course the other one also in the same time period. I think we know who the star is going to be, and this is really, I think, the last big one as far as the Star Wars go is Rangers of the New Republic, and I'm assuming Cara Dune
Yeah.
is going to be the focal point of that one, which means all the rumors about uh, Disney and Lucasfilm parting ways with Gina Carano couldn't be more incorrect. I don't know how you can uh, have a Rangers of the New Republic without Cara Dune being a significant part of that.
Did she piss somebody off? I don't understand.
I think she may have had an offhand tweet that picked up steam,
Huh.
or every single one of her tweets. I'm not sure. One or the other.
Sure, sure.
But you looking
Very
forward to that one?
yeah, I mean, even before her controversy, I'm not too crazy about Cara Dune.
Yeah,
Again, she's an okay wrestler, but as far as like acting, and I know wrestling is acting and acting is wrestling or whatever, but I'm not too
she's
crazy about her
yeah.
her delivery.
But this might be the
Um,
war. This might how we get our. This is how we're going to get our war fix. If we're going to get our the mysticism in the Ahsoka series, I think this is how we get our straight up war fix is through the battles between the Walker Texas Ranger.
I can see that. I can totally see that backyard TARDIS. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Nicole, how you doing? Hope you are well. Nicole, thank you for joining us. Bring on the Rangers, she says. Yes. So yeah, definitely. You know, we wanted our wars fixed, and I'm sure this will do it. What time period is this going to be?
It says
Will this
also
take
during the
place?
Mandalorian, so it
Is
might
it?
be if it's
Yeah.
if it is Cara Dune, I guess it has to be either at the same time or it'll have to be set after Mandalorian because she just recently started working for the New Republic.
Mm,
She was, she was a rebellion, you know, jump trooper or
trooper.
whatever.
Yeah.
But and she just recently got hired by the New Republic. So if she is part of it, which I'm sure she will be, it'll have to be set either at the same time or after the events of the Mandalorian, which
Sure.
means the Empire will still be a thing
Yeah.
after we're done with the Mandalorian.
Wow. Phoenix Nightflame has a great comment here. She says, "I think." Why do I assume it's a she? Phoenix Nightflame. Anyways, I think Mando, Ahsoka, and Rangers are supposed to all link up sometime in the future for a climactic event, according to Kennedy. That would be pretty climactic.
How did I miss that one? I totally missed that announcement. Maybe because I don't listen to Kathleen Kennedy too much. I don't know. Uh,
But
oh, that would
that
be. I mean, they need to give me Thrawn before that. I mean, yeah, that'd be cool, but I need my Thrawn fixed a little bit before that.
so yeah,
Uh,
Backyard TARDIS says the same thing. They said the three shows will culminate in an epic crossover, maybe Thrawn.
well, I'm telling you. I mean, I'll go back to what I said on the show. They've set it up so they can pretty much just reintroduce the Thrawn, the original Zahn Thrawn trilogy from the '90s. He's been gone for a long time. Just like he was in the original books. He was gone for a long time, somewhere in the unknown regions. And there is a massive fleet out there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not he's hanging out with Palpatine and all his failed clones on Exegol or what, or just wherever maybe the First Order's hanging out. Either way, he can come back with a vengeance with a whole lot of Star Destroyers and basically cause a whole new trilogy to happen in between, the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. So yeah, I don't want to wait for Thrawn, but I would definitely wait for that event.
Who would you cast as Thrawn?
I mean, I'm in the Benedict Cumberbatch
Mm,
camp for sure. I think that what that guy can do with his voice and with his facial features,
mm-hmm.
and it takes Thrawn's not a very exciting character. He's an interesting character because of how brilliant he is and what kind of military strategist he is, but that doesn't necessarily equate to a fun character to watch on screen. But I think Cumberbatch can bring his own flavor to it and actually make you want to watch this guy. And uh, I think he could really villainize if all. I've said this on Twitter and on the show. Thrawn's not really being seen as a villain too much nowadays. They're
Mm-hmm.
giving him a backstory where he, as an admiral, he does his job as an admiral. He, carries out his orders and, destroys the empire or the rebels. But in these new books that are coming out, they're giving his backstory on why he does things. So I think when he comes back, if they reintroduce him, he's going to be. I think they're going to reintroduce him as quite the villain after all this time, and I think Cumberbatch would nail that.
So the new books, I mean, when I remember reading Thrawn, I mean, he was a sympathetic character. He came to the Emperor for help. It was kind of, you scratch my back, I scratch yours when the time comes. So they're sticking to that, right? You just finished one of the books.
Yeah. So it's still that's kind of open ended. Backyard TARDIS did mention the voice actor. and that's I assume you mean from Audible, and that's Mark Thompson, and that guy's been doing Star Wars books for years now, and he is just uh,
Mm,
fantastic. I mean, he's more realistic as Thrawn than we see in Star Wars Rebels. So I agree with that. He doesn't look the part, but he definitely sounds the part. But yeah, there, it's still a little bit open ended as far as Thrawn's relationship with the Empire. Um, the last time we see Thrawn, he is still allied with the Empire when he disappears at the end of Rebels.
mm-hmm.
Um, but um, the new books, or all the books that have come out, still make you wonder whether there was reasons why he was so allied with the Empire. Was it still for the Chiss ascendancy? So his allegiance may still be um, with the Chiss instead of the Empire. So when he came back, so when he does come back, he will either be doing so on behalf of the Empire or on behalf of the Chiss ascendancy. I would think it's on behalf of the Empire because the Chiss aren't really aggressive like that. They protect
Mm-hmm.
their own area, but they're not really aggressive. So I think when he does come back, it'll be on behalf of the Empire.
And just a side note, if you guys are not listening to or subscribe to WSTR, another one of our Red 5 members, check them out. They just celebrated 200 episodes, and they've had Mark Thompson on the show a couple of times. He does a nice little congratulatory message on the WSTR, and he does a little bit of Thrawn, and he's really freaking good. So catch WSTR on their 200th episode and listen to all of the messages that are left for them, including Mark Thompson. Really great little skit that they do. Really awesome. So yeah, that's fantastic. So what about? I have no clue what this Children of Blood and Bone are. What's
I think that's a non Star Wars title.
Oh, why is it in here then? Damn it.
I I think that's just one of the I think that's one of just the Disney. I could be
Oh
wrong
yeah.
as to what.
Well, Indiana Jones is in there too, so I
Yeah.
guess.
Now, if there was a Star Wars title with that name, I'd watch the hell out of it. I don't know what's in reference to, little Sith kids, but yeah, Mark
Yeah.
Thompson is the man. His Chewbacca needs work, but besides his Chewbacca, I don't envy anybody trying to do a Chewie voice and try to make conversation with him. But yeah, Mark's awesome. But yeah, I think that's all. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you?
I think I'm at an 8. Um, I think there's a lot here to absorb. I'm again, the three things that I'm really looking forward to is Andor is at the top of my list, followed closely by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now that Hayden Christensen was announced as being Darth Vader, I think that's fantastic. One of the things that I was wondering too, a while ago they announced that all the scripts for Obi-Wan were done. They were going to start shooting, and then all of a sudden they came back and said, "Whoa, hold on a second, we need to kind of rework some things." I'm wondering if in the interim they decided to kind of really rehash the story and how that process was to be able to kind of come back with somebody saying, "What if we bring Darth Vader back?" And then that's what sparked it.
Do they all have imperial accents? Everybody, everybody at Lucasfilm has an imperial accent.
They should.
I mean, we've been talking about Obi-Wan for years now. I think it feels
Sure.
like. And I'm with you. I think when they first toyed with the idea, I think it was just too early. I think they just weren't ready for that. So I take it as a good thing that they waited enough time, let some other stories develop, checked out fan reaction to them.
Sure.
Ahsoka, Mandalorian. Um, I think they've seen how people's opinions of Hayden Christensen have changed over the years. He was given hell back in
Sure.
2002, 2005, but people love him now. So I think they're taking all that into account, and I think we'll get a better story now that they waited. I think it may have had a,
Absolutely.
yeah, a sequel trilogy rushed feel to it if they had put it out before, just to put it out.
And let me tell you this, obviously, even before any announcement, we realized that Obi-Wan Kenobi is a character that was, on this planet, kind of watching young Luke, taking care of him as a child. We do see a very similar storyline where the Mandalorian is taking care of a child. I think if I'm wondering if Lucasfilm Brass kind of took a step back and said, you know what, this storyline here is very close to the Mandalorian. Do we want to go this route? What else do we got? So I think you're right. I think it's better. It will be better. I think the fact that they waited and kind of gauged fan reaction to the Mandalorian kind of says a lot. Obviously, with the all the projects that are slated to come our way, um, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan, and I think I'm very excited. So like I said, for me, Andor, Obi-Wan, and I don't know. Obviously, Rogue Squadron. I think Patty Jenkins is a great director. I think we're going to get some really great, stories and images and characters out of this film.
And that's the
And
big screen. That one's
yeah,
supposed to, if we get our movie theaters back, I think that's the only one that's currently slated. Yeah, I'm with you. Andor, Rogue Squadron, and The Acolyte would be my top three on there. Uh, I would say, this is straight. I'm with you. I was not excited to hear about the Bad Batch at all
mm,
when they said it was going to get its own series. But now taking a look at that trailer, that looks amazing.
sure,
Uh,
yeah.
and shout out to Mr. Rez for joining the chat, or for being in the chat with us as well. Give me Eli Vanto. Do you know who that is?
Oh
Who
yeah,
Eli is?
yeah. First of
Yep.
all, he's named after my son.
So, yeah. So Thrawn's, for anybody in the chat that doesn't know who Eli Vanto is, works with Thrawn, basically his executive assistant, if you will, slash translator, and some other functions that he serves. Mark Thompson gives him a very country accent. He's got a very backwoods country accent in the book, because he's supposed to be from the Outer Rim. Um, I don't think if they brought Eli, I don't think he'll be quite that country when they bring him back for real. But a very interesting character nonetheless. Um, a An original character, but I think he'll be fun to see. But yeah, like you said, great time to be a Star Wars fan.
Excellent. Folks in the chat, you guys got any other questions for Team Scarif before we wrap up? I think it's been a little over an hour, and yeah, just having fun here.
Oh yeah, some we did have some bit of bad news. The Mandalorian won't be out till around Christmas time. Season 3 won't be out till around Christmas time. So we got, instead of a little under a year, we're gonna have a little over a year to wait for the next season of the Mandalorian. But the way this season is ending, I think it'll be well worth the wait.
When do you think the next Star Wars series will drop on Disney Plus? I think Cassian, or I think Andor is next up. I don't think we're gonna have to
I
wait.
think I have it here. I know
Sure.
Bad Batch is going to be in 2021. There's another one for, let's see if I can find it. There's another one for 2021 as well.
It's funny. Somebody had mentioned the fact that we've got Ahsoka, we've got Bo-Katan in the Mandalorian show, and somebody had mentioned that they were using the Mandalorian to just kind of introduce some of the spin-offs that were planned. I didn't believe them at first, but obviously now after last night, definitely has some truth to it. We've got an Ahsoka show, we've got Rangers of the New Republic, shows like that. So yeah, I'd love to see how all of this connects to the Mandalorian, and looking forward to more Star Wars, as we will definitely be suffering through Star Wars fatigue in the next year and a half.
So much fatigue. I'm tired as hell right now just talking about it. To Charlie Skywalker's question, unfortunately, I don't think we'll get back to Scarif. Um, I had a quick thought it might be in the casting series, but no, he definitely looked at. He really had no idea about Scarif, which means he had no intel on Scarif. So I don't think we're going to be. I don't think the rebellion knew the Empire was doing anything really on Scarif. So I don't think we'll see it on the big screen. Um, they can't really go back to Scarif. We saw what happened to Jeddah. The comic book showed what happened to Jeddah after it got obliterated. Half the planet is gone. Even though he was, even though he was just trying to blow up the little city, he ended up taking out about a third of the planet with it when all was said and done. So Scarif is not the beautiful place that we all remember when we were on shore duty there. So we might see it in the books and the comics and that sort of thing, or maybe on a. But I don't think we'll see it anymore. And Dave's question: thoughts on the possible direction for the? Yeah,
Before you get into that,
yeah.
let me go way back. Shannon had a question
Oh, okay.
regarding the fact that Hayden was back, and she asks, "What are the chances that Liam Neeson, Frank Oz, Jimmy Smith, maybe
Oh,
Natalie
please God, yes.
Portman, flashback, and Obi Wan?" I think Jimmy Smith is definitely a contender for the Cassian show. I think obviously he's around. He's part of the building of the rebellion. Um, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, Liam Neeson has very good things to say about both Episode One and his character of Qui Gon, and of course we heard his voice, um, in the rest of the prequels,
Yes,
and we know he talked with Yoda and Obi Wan. So I don't think we'll. Man, if we saw him as a Force ghost, that would be epic.
sure.
But that's a good call. I think at a minimum, we might hear him speaking with. I don't know how that would look very good on screen. So yeah, we might in fact see a Force ghost of Qui Gon Jinn, and that would be epic.
That would be amazing. Yeah. And then getting back to Dave's question, what are your thoughts on a possible direction for the Taika Waititi film that is now confirmed? I, for one, am cautious about anything that director does.
Oh,
I'm not
because
a
he's got humor.
yeah.
Because he
I'm
does.
not. I'm not a big fan of some of his movies. Obviously, his episodes of The Mandalorian were great. I just want to make sure that I think you can bring in directors, but Star Wars is such a specialized taste that you got to make sure that sometimes these directors are reeled in. There's one director in particular that wasn't reeled in, and I know you guys know who I'm talking about, but that is neither here nor there. I'm sure he's going to do a fantastic job as he has done so for The Mandalorian. But we'll see. We'll see what what he gets to do in the Star Wars world. I think it'll be fantastic. I'm hoping it'll be fantastic, anyways.
He he directed. I'm just looking at he directed Chapter 8.
Yeah.
The so surely there's no way you can have problems with the Chapter 8 of the Mandalorian.
No, you are correct, sir.
So I mean, it's definitely not the Thor Ragnarok. So I mean, Chapter 8 was a work of art.
Yeah.
And I guess that film is set for 2025, according to this article I'm looking at right now. Um, I mean, do we know anything about that?
No, I don't even think he knows anything about that. He
Except he's got the job.
somebody tweeted at him about him directing a Star Wars film, and he tweeted back, "What?"
Are you serious?
Yeah,
I mean, he does have a
but
weird sense of humor. Uh,
exactly, that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. So
Um, I mean, yeah, I can understand your apprehension, but um, his work on the Mandalorian is kind of spoken for itself.
sure.
Uh, yeah, it should be. I mean, 2025, we're going to hear lots more details.
Absolutely.
And then what we got? Sabine. Uh, hey, where's Sabine at? I know we're going to talk about this in the Mandalorian when we do the recap.
Where's
But
she at
where?
this moment?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't she? Are we pipe dreaming now? Wasn't she a guarantee for season 2, or did we just all make that up in our heads
No,
and
I
and,
I
and went with
honestly
it?
think I honestly think, somebody saw a wrestler with blue hair and said Sabine. We made it up.
That
It's in
was
our
that was
heads.
months later. I thought that was like I thought Sabine was confirmed, or did we all
Mm,
just like plant that seed in our heads and just go with it?
I think the mind wants to believe what the mind wants to believe.
But if she's in the Cassian series, uh, you know, let's see, Cassian. I don't know if we know when Cassian is set for, but if what's Roderick? Um, she could be reprising her role as Fulcrum. She was playing the role of Fulcrum in Rebels. Um, she was so I'm trying to think about the timeline where they would both be. So Sabine. No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Ahsoka again. I keep getting those. I'm thinking
Right.
Ahsoka could actually be in Cassian as Fulcrum. Um,
Yeah, could
I don't
be.
think Sabine would be there, but it's possible Ahsoka could be there.
And we got to go back and see where in the timeline the Ahsoka book happens. Because at the end of the Ahsoka book, if you recall, that's when she took upon the mantle of Fulcrum, and it was early on when
That was
he,
shortly after Revenge of the Sith.
yeah,
That was within a year or two after Revenge of the Sith because she was sort of kind of on the run.
yeah,
Phoenix Nightflame says it was never confirmed that she was in season 2.
I didn't think so.
So I mean, yeah, Phoenix is agreeing with you about Sasha Banks. I guess I just dreamed that. I could have sworn she was confirmed. What's Phoenix saying about Michael Stackpole? What did
But the Rogue Squadron announced they
so
left for Petty to bring Michael in as a consultant.
yeah, so it would be a great disservice to both him and to the Star Wars community if Michael Stackpole had no part whatsoever in that Rogue Squadron book. Um, Most people don't. I would say a lot of Star Wars fans nowadays maybe don't even know the name Michael Stackpole. But half the stuff that we know about nowadays came from Stackpole, as
Mm-hmm.
far as Rogue Squadron goes, and a lot of the characters that he introduced between Stackpole and Zahn. They owned the 1990s as far as Star Wars. They were actually the only good Star Wars fiction in the 90s. So it would be a huge disservice if Stackpole was not at least a consultant on that movie.
I agree. I agree. So, yeah, I guess before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you if you had anything else to say. But one other thing, last Mando Weekly, you mentioned the rule of two, one of our previous episodes, an older episode, which was very much worth mentioning. We've got, we've been at it doing this podcasting for a little over a year, I think a year and a few months, a year and a half now. We are running up to our 50th episode. We have a special 50th episode planned. But I want you guys in the chat, if you guys have some time, to join us on Sunday night for our usual weekly wrap up of The Mandalorian. We will be doing it live and hopefully taking some of your questions and talking spoilers. I still haven't seen it. I'm going to probably pop it in after our live stream tonight. But any other episodes of the Scarif Scuttlebutt you'd like folks to kind of check out now that we're chatting library of the Scarif Scuttlebutt? What do you got?
Uh,
I
Man,
know,
we've been
yeah,
talking about Ahsoka. The Ahsoka one, great to check out. Also, let's not forget our conversation that we had with Claudia Gray. That was one of our more popular episodes. We had the honor and the pleasure of interviewing Claudia Gray, writer of Lost Stars, Leia, Bloodline. She is such a down to earth person, and we've talked about Filoni and his knowledge and grasp of the Star Wars universe. Claudia Gray's she's up there, especially Qui Gon. We've talked about Qui Gon a few times. Qui Gon Jinn is Claudia Gray's favorite character. She loves and adores that character. So I highly recommend checking out that interview that we did with Claudia Gray. And we got to ask her some things, including the possibility of a Lost Stars 2. So check that. You can catch that on YouTube as well if you'd rather watch the video that we did with her. We have that here, or you can check it out as a normal podcast. So check out our interview with Claudia Gray.
Excellent. And one of my favorites from back in July, we had a conversation with the boys over at Conversations podcast. We talked a little bit about Saw Gerrera. You were talking about Saw Gerrera earlier tonight. We had a really great conversation about Saw and his background, his character motivations. He's a very complex character in Star Wars, and I think he is one of the characters that was created by George Lucas, kind of tucked away for a live action way back when, and introduced to the public in the Clone Wars, but brought back obviously for Rogue One. We had a really great time. Check out episode 34, Saw Gerrera, and our conversation with Pat and Charles of Conversations, another member of our Red 5 network team of pods. Great discussion with them on Saw Gerrera and his motivations. So
Yeah,
check that out, episode 34.
I want to thank Backyard TARDIS. Actually, kind of forgot about that episode, but now that he mentions that, also one of my favorites, when the three of us, you, myself, and Alex, got to get together to talk about the light side, the dark side. Really, we talk about our deep cuts. That one, I can't remember how long we talked on that one. I know we talked for a long time, and we felt like we could have talked about another 2 or 3 hours on that one, about the light side and the dark side of the Force. Is the dark side necessarily evil, or is it just the people that use the dark side? Are they the evil ones? So yeah, we exchanged a lot of different ideas on that. Gave Alex some new ways of looking at things, and he, vice versa, did the same. Yeah, thank you for that one. That was a while back, but I'm sure if you can bring that up. But yeah, thank you for that, for remembering that one.
That
Definitely
was
check that one out.
that was actually that was actually a year ago tomorrow.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, it was December
Holy
12th,
cow!
episode 18, The Legacy of Balance.
There you go.
That's awesome. Thanks, Nick from Backyard TARDIS. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Very poignant opportunity for us to talk about that a year later. So
I did forget
fantastic.
my favorite episode. I'm remiss, and that's the one where we talked about the Scarif troopers playing with their beach balls on the beaches of Scarif.
That's true.
Uh, yep, and that one is entitled Manscaped. Actually, manscaped.com is what that one was called. And for all your grooming needs, go to manscaped.com and use the promo code BEACHBALLS, and you can get 20% off your order to make sure all your nether regions are always clean and well groomed. And Ro just likes to hear me say beach balls for some reason, so I figured I'd throw that in there as a shameless promotion. Go to manscaped.com.
And now I love hearing you say nether regions.
so, so you have the outer rim, and then you have the unknown regions, and way past that is the nether regions.
There you
So
go.
that's currently where Thrawn is. Thrawn is in the nether regions using manscaped.com, promo code beachballs for 20% off.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Just a wonderful time we had tonight talking about the announcements for Lucasfilm. It's really a great time to be a Star Wars fan. There's a little bit for everyone, and I don't know, man. Next Sunday is going to be fantastic. I'm pretty sure because everybody's loving today's episode. I got to go look at it. I got to go watch it.
I'm
And
going to text you, and I'm going to spoil it. You have 1 hour to watch it before I start sending you screenshots and text messages about it. So
nice,
join us
nice.
Sunday night so we can talk some Mandalorian. It's going to be awesome.
And thank you, Backyard TARDIS, for sending me a video and tagging us on how you used your Manscaped product.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Very, very nice. Very nice. Thank you so much. I'm sure. I'm sure they're looking really nice.
I was wondering how you're going to end that sentence. Ro will use his imagination, and thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you again for joining us on another Scarif Live, a little impromptu hangout. For those of you who are left
Did
in
you
the
say
chat,
impromptu?
impromptu. Sorry.
That Carillion ale just getting to you now. Huh?
Totally, totally. Very
Totally
much
impromptu. This episode was.
All right, guys. Again,
Tython.
Tython. I know. Say that after a glass and a half of red wine. Tython. Excellent. For more Red 5 shenanigans, check out our podcast over at red5network.com, along with the rest of the Red 5 family. We love you guys. Brad, what you got?
Just remember, guys, it's always sunny on Scarif, and that is the scuttlebutt.